Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to Unparalleled Universe for another action figure review. And you know what? It's been a very long time since I've done a throwback review, so today we're going to be talking about the DC Universe Classics Martian Manhunter. And I've had this figure in my closet for probably about 2 years. I found it in an old toy store back then, and I picked it up with the intention of doing a throwback review, and then I kind of forgot about the figure. I forgot that I had it. I put it in a box and then never thought about it again. But recently, I was watching Justice League Unlimited on Netflix, and I thought to myself, like, damn, I wish I had a good Martian Manhunter. And I was like, wait a minute, I think I do. So I dug him out, and now I want to talk about it. And you know, if you weren't collecting action figures at the time that DC Universe Classics was out, this may be kind of hard for you to believe, but Mattel was kind of running things when it comes to 6-inch action figures for a couple of years there. When these were coming out, Marvel Legends had they were kind of like on a hiatus, you know? Hasbro had just taken over the license and, you know, they just really weren't doing a good job. And then at one point they kind of stopped making Legends, even though they never really admitted that they're not making them. They only put out a couple of 6-inch figures a year, and they were mostly focusing on Marvel Universe. But at that time, I was very jealous as a Marvel fan of DC fans because they had this awesome line from Mattel. And yeah, man, they were really killing it. And even back then, when I wasn't really that much into DC, you know, like I was a little bit more ignorant, to be honest with you, a little bit more closed-minded. So, you know, I wasn't like eager to go learn a bunch of stuff about DC. I knew some things and, you know, I was into some characters, but to be honest with you, I was kind of a hater. So I was a little jealous of DC fans because they were getting these amazing figures, and you know, I had to buy the 3 3/4 inch stuff, which, you know, I wasn't a fan of those either, but I came to appreciate them. Anyways, even though I was kind of a hater, I still picked up a couple of the DC Universe figures, and I liked them quite a bit. You know, I thought they were pretty cool. There was no way I could go all in on the line because DC was going so crazy with this whole line. They gave DC fans so many figures. They went so deep into the DC universe. The name is perfect for this line because they really built the universe. They put out so many figures. It had to be an awesome time to be a hardcore DC fan because Mattel was really killing it. But enough about all that. Let's go ahead and get into it, starting off with the packaging. Right through the window here, you could see that we have a really nice shot of Martian Manhunter. He is looking pretty badass, and I think that they released this figure a couple of times. This one is from the All-Star wave. Originally, I believe that he came out in the Validus Build-A-Figure wave, and that one was kind of different. It had a blade-shaped hand and a bigger head. So this one is a little bit more basic, but I think it looks awesome. You know, it's got a very classic look to it. And I just love everything about the packaging. You know, the artwork in the back looks amazing. DC Universe right on the top, and then on the back we get, oh man, look at this. A biography of the character, a bunch of statistics. It kind of gives us a bunch of information about the character, not only like biography type stuff, but also like what comic he first appeared in, his real name, whether he's a hero or villain, or all that stuff. And then down here we get some artwork of some of the other characters that were in the All-Star wave. So yeah, the packaging is amazing. Unfortunately, it's not collector friendly, so it's gonna hurt to open this up, but it is what it is. Let's go ahead and get Martian Manhunter out and take a look. Alright, so look at this. Here we have Martian Manhunter right out of the box. And man, I would say for a figure that's over 10 years old, he is looking really, really good. Aesthetically, I would say that he doesn't even look outdated or anything. It doesn't feel like a figure that came out over 10 years ago as far as the look goes. Obviously, the articulation is a little bit outdated. Even at the time of its release, I would argue that the articulation was outdated. By the time Mattel was releasing these, Marvel Legends had already been out, and there was a couple of other lines that had highly articulated action figures. So I would say that the DC Universe Classics didn't really have the amount of articulation that some of the other lines did at the time. So I always felt that it was outdated even back then. But yeah, man, as far as the look goes, this is a beautiful looking figure. And the Four Horsemen sculpted the DC Universe Classics figures, and the way that Mattel did it was basically like every single figure was almost exactly the same, except like the body sizes would be different, but the base bodies were pretty much identical. They would just have ones that were a little bit smaller or a little bit bigger to fit the different characters, and then they would have like these pieces that they added on, like the straps or whatever, or boots, but for the most part, the bodies were exactly the same between all the figures. And, you know, I would say that was kind of a gift and a curse because on the positive side, it gave the line a very uniform feel, you know? And I thought that was kind of cool because it was stylized and stuff, and it kind of reminded me of the Justice League cartoon, and I thought that was very cool for like a DC line. On the negative side, it did kind of feel like you were buying the same figure over and over, and they went like 20 waves deep or something. So after wave 20, if you're getting the same base body, it's gonna feel a little boring, even though I felt that they were doing the job really well. So, like I said, it was a gift and a curse. And the body was pretty good, although, like I mentioned before, the articulation was very limited. I think that it looks really good, especially for a character like the Martian Manhunter here. And I think like adding the cape and the straps and all that kind of made the figures feel different enough, but once you pick them up and start playing with them, they all feel very similar. But just standing there, I think that each one of them had like a unique look that was like unique to each character, but also uniform at the same time. So it was an interesting line and a very interesting approach to it. But as far as this guy goes, I think he looks amazing. There's not a lot going on. He's got the cape. He's got a really cool looking head sculpt. A perfect, facial expression for the character. It looks like alien and human at the same time. There was like a variant version or like a separate release that had a head sculpt that was a little bit different. And that one looked good too, but I think I prefer this one. And when it comes to the sculpt work on these classics figures, there really wasn't like a whole lot of detail or texture or anything like that. A lot of the surfaces were very smooth, but I will say the figures always looked nice and the head sculpts were always really, really dope. And Martian Manhunter is no exception. Check out this head sculpt. I think they did a good job with this. I love the red eyes. They really pop against the bright green skin. I think it looks dope. He's got a perfect, serious facial expression that fits the character very well. You could see he has that like exaggerated brow that kind of makes him look alien. But a lot of his other facial features look a little bit more human, But I think that's very good for the character. But yeah, this is awesome, man. Not a whole lot going on, but it's a great looking head sculpt. And then moving on to the body, as you could see, everything is really smooth. Actually, we do have some like veins and stuff on the shoulder there. That looks pretty good. And on the arms. But yeah, as you could see, there's really not a whole lot going on. The straps for the cape look good though. There's a little bit of texture in there, so that's nice. And we do have a belt. And the shorts have some texture. There's a little bit of wrinkles sculpted in right there. And then that's about it. The legs are very smooth. The boots don't really have too much going on. They do the job though. They look good. And for Martian Manhunter, this look really works. And I think for most of the figures they did, this whole look works just fine. There was a couple of characters where they had to put a little bit more into it, and I feel like when they had to, they did it, and the figures did look good. I remember, what's that dude's name? Mangog or something like that? That figure had a whole lot of really nice sculpting work. I should try to get my hands on that guy. But yeah, for the most part, everything was really smooth, but it looks good. But yeah, man, I think this figure still looks really good. And I think he's going to look awesome next to like Mafex and other DC lines. But we'll check on that in just a minute when we get to the comparisons. But right out of the box, I really love the way this guy looks. And Martian Manhunter was definitely very light in the accessory department. He doesn't really come with anything at all other than this DC Universe Classics stand. And it's cool. It's translucent blue and it holds the figure very securely. Pegs on there and it's a nice little stand. Whatever. It would have been cool if he came with like an alternate head, or the other version that Mattel released had like an axe hand. I think it would have been cool if he just had interchangeable limbs with different like weapon shapes. That would have been nice. But as it is right now, he doesn't have anything going on. Dang, so check this out. Here we have the DC Universe Classics Martian Manhunter alongside the Mafex Hush Batman and the Mafex Hush Superman. And man, I've got to say, I think he looks really good next to them. Yes, he is a little bigger, but he's a shapeshifter kind of guy, so you could kind of fudge it when it comes to the size. But man, I think they look great together. And I don't even think he looks outdated. Obviously, there are elements of him that are outdated, but for the most part, I think he fits in really well with these types of figures that just came out in the last couple of years. Man, they look awesome. I like that quite a bit. And then next up, we have him alongside the NECA DC versus Dark Horse Hal Jordan Green Lantern. On the opposite side, we have the Mezco 112 Collective John Stewart Green Lantern. And I think that Martian Manhunter looks pretty good next to them. I would say he's probably a little on the small side next to the NECA Hal Jordan Green Lantern. But man, you know what? It'd be pretty dope. I wish that NECA kept on doing their DC figures. I know they only did a couple of them, but I thought they were good, and I think they'd make a great Martian Manhunter. I mean, they'd probably do a good job on damn near everybody, but yeah, I think they would kill it on Martian Manhunter for sure. And I don't have a whole bunch of the McFarlane DC stuff, but here we have them alongside the McFarlane DC Multiverse Booster Gold and Blue Beetle. And, you know, obviously Martian Manhunter is a little on the small side with these guys because the DC Universe Classics were supposed to be like 6-inch scale, and, you know, the McFarlane stuff is like 7-inch scale. But you could probably make it work if you have them in some type of flight pose or something. You could probably blend them in pretty well with the McFarlane stuff. I'm not a big fan of the McFarlane Martian Manhunter. I wanted to like it, but when I saw it in person, I don't know. I just wasn't into it. Let me know what you guys think of that figure in the comments below. And then here we have him alongside the McFarlane DC Multiverse Infected Superman and the Mafex Dark Knight Returns Superman. And then here we have him alongside the DC Icon Cyborg and the DC Icons Deadman. And yeah, I don't think these two lines worked very well together. The DC Universe stuff was a little too stylized and big compared to Icons. So for the most part, I don't know how well these guys kind of mix in with each other. But I'll tell you what though, I really want to pick up the DC Universe Classics Deadman. I had that figure, I liked it quite a bit, but I used it to make a custom Earth X Daredevil, which, you know, I was happy I did that because it was a custom that I was satisfied with. But I remember that figure being really dope. So I'm going to have to backtrack and pick up that DC Universe Classics Deadman. And then here we have him alongside the Mezco 112 Collective Wonder Woman and the Mezco 112 Collective Flash. And I think he looks pretty good next to them. And then of course here we have him alongside the Marvel Legends Bucky Cap and Marvel Legends Renew Your Vows Spider-Man. And then here we have him alongside the only other two DC Universe Classics figures that I currently keep in my collection. I think that I have a couple of more like in bins or something. I'm pretty sure I had a Batman, I had Deathstroke, but it was the unmasked one, so I don't know what the hell I did with that one. I also had Green Arrow. I had a bunch of them that I kept, but you know, I don't know what happened to them over time. Swamp Thing was one that has always stayed in my collection, like in my display, because that figure is freaking amazing. I bought that at Comic-Con when it first came out. It was an exclusive. Still love that figure. It's freaking awesome. On the opposite side, we have Shark, and the only reason why I have him is because, you know, last year sometime I picked up, or maybe it was this year, I don't remember. I bought something from Amazon. I bought a Marvel Legends figure, and it was in one of the windowless boxes. When I opened the box, that's what was in there. So I keep them in the collection because it's hilarious. And honestly, I prefer this figure over the figure I actually ordered. I was just buying it for the Build-A-Figure piece. But, you know, I just keep him around because it's funny. But yeah, man, I really want to pick up some more DC Universe Classics figures. I have my eye on a couple, so we'll see if I can track them down. Maybe do some more throwback videos. And then for the final size comparison, here we have Martian Manhunter alongside Mattel's Masters of the Universe Masterverse Manny-Faces and Whiplash. And you know what? I love the Masterverse stuff. I think Mattel is killing it with that line. I'm not like a big He-Man fan or Masters of the Universe fan. I just really, really like the figures. I think they're doing a great job. And every single time I get one of these damn Masterverse figures, I think to myself, like, I never thought I'd say this, you know? I'm like, man, I wish that Mattel still had the DC license. Because imagine if they were making DC figures that are as good as these Masterverse figures. That would be absolutely incredible. I know a lot of people are happy with the McFarlane stuff. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of the McFarlane multiverse. I just, you know, I can't really get into them. But, you know, a lot of people like them, so that's cool, whatever. But personally, I think it would have been awesome if Mattel kept the DC license and, you know, started to put the effort into them that they're putting into the Masterverse figures. They would have been straight killing it, in my opinion. And when it comes to articulation, the DC Universe Classics had a very basic articulation setup, especially at the beginning. As the line went on, they did try to add a little bit of articulation, but it was pretty late into the life of the line. I remember around the time that they were covering like the Blackest Night, a couple of those figures had double jointed knees and elbows, and I also remember Creeper and Blue Beetle both had double jointed knees and elbows. And with those two guys, a part of me kind of thinks that because they were so skinny, Mattel felt comfortable giving them double jointed knees and elbows because maybe they felt like it wouldn't really mess up the aesthetic that much. But when it comes to like bigger guys, they never felt comfortable with it because I can't remember any bigger characters that had double jointed knees and elbows until it became Multiverse. When it became DC Multiverse, I feel like more of the characters had double jointed knees. Not elbows, but a bunch of them had double jointed knees. So I'm not really 100% sure what happened there, but I do know that You know, the articulation at the beginning was very basic, and they were trying to add some stuff, but like I said, it was pretty late into the life of the line. But let's go ahead and see what we have going on here, starting off at the head. So he can look side to side, which is pretty cool. And it does have a little bit of tilt, but not that much. Surprisingly, he could look up a decent amount, which is nice for a, you know, for flying characters. Yeah, that'll work. That's not too bad at all. And then it could look down only to about right there. His, you know, the little rope piece on the collar of the cape kind of gets in the way. But yeah, not a whole lot of movement at the head. And then for the torso, they did have ab crunch, but damn, it doesn't it doesn't move very much at all. It moves back a decent amount, which is kind of cool. But going forward, it only goes to right there. So not a whole lot. He does have a swivel at the waist. And then for the arms, he's got these big old ball joint shoulders, and they go all the way around. They come up to right there, which is surprising because they're huge. You would think that it would be a little too tight in there, but yeah, they come up a decent amount. And then he does have upper bicep swivel, and then single jointed elbows. Look at that. Boom. Only about 90. And then at the hand here, he just has a swivel, no hinge or anything. And then for the legs, he's got these silly looking hips, but they did allow figures to do the splits. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, these hips they don't look very good. But yeah, they could kick out to the side a pretty decent amount. He could bring his leg forward a nice amount. And then back as well. And then he does have like it's not really like an upper thigh swivel. It's like right here, right above the knee kind of. There's a swivel in there, but it doesn't look great because it's like right into the muscles there. So it kind of looks weird when you move it around. And then he does have single jointed knees. That's okay. It's a little, you know, it's about 90. He has a swivel at the boot, and then at the foot we have a hinge. That's about it. No rocking or anything like that. So yeah, like I said, you know, not a whole lot of articulation. Articulation feels very basic, and like I said before, it felt outdated even for its time because, you know, you had Marvel Legends out there, you had Soda Toys doing Street Fighter stuff that had a bunch of articulation. So, you know, there was plenty of action figure lines out there that had good articulation, and, you know, they just weren't doing it for these guys. You know what? I want to say that around that time, Mattel started to do really nice wrestling figures, and even those had great articulation, like better than the DC Universe Classic stuff. But yeah, even though he doesn't have a whole lot of articulation, you could still get him into some cool poses. Just nothing too dynamic. It'll kind of be hard to get him into any like really dope fighting poses or anything like that. So yeah. Oh, look at this. I didn't really mention this, but his arms get in front of him a pretty decent amount for some cool punching poses. Yeah, that's not too bad. Damn, that's not too bad at all. What else we got going? Look at that. Oh, wow. Hey, that's pretty crazy. So that's one impressive point of articulation. Like if you have a character that holds a sword, you could probably do it. Damn, look at that. That's dope. Man. So there we go. That's one point of articulation that's really nice. And it like the cut is pretty deep here. It doesn't really obstruct the way the upper chest looks. But yeah, aside from that, you know, there's not a whole lot of impressive articulation on these guys, but yeah, check him out. He looks awesome. You could get him into some cool basic flight poses and some cool just standing there looking dope type of poses. So that's about as much as you're going to get out of the articulation on Martian Manhunter. Alrighty, so overall, at the end of the day, when the smoke clears, the dust settles, and it's all said and done, I had so much fun taking a look at this figure. It's crazy that he still holds up so well. He looks amazing. It's well sculpted. He looks awesome next to other DC figures from other lines, old and new. Obviously, the articulation is pretty outdated, but honestly, it was outdated back in the day. It is what it is. It seems like it was more of a stylistic choice on Mattel and Four Horsemen's part, rather than like not being able to execute articulation, because Mattel has shown that they could give articulation, but it seems like with DC Universe Classics, they chose chose to go with a certain aesthetic that didn't really have a whole lot of articulation. And I know that after so many releases, people kind of got bored of these bodies, which is totally understandable. But in my opinion, I think they work so well for big, strong superheroes, you know? They have a nice, like, heroic stature to them. I've always thought that was cool. And I love the uniform look. It kind of reminds me of Justice League. I think this is a really great figure. In my opinion, it's probably the best Martian Manhunter figure out there. I know there's not a whole lot of options. Personally, I'm not a big fan of the McFarlane one, and I can't even think of any other ones, to be honest with you. So yeah, I would say that this is the best Martian Manhunter figure available. It's still pretty cheap on Amazon too. A lot of the DC Universe Classics figures have shot up in price, but Martian Manhunter is still only like 20 or 30 bucks. So yeah, if you guys want a good version of the character that'll fit in with your Mafex and maybe Mezco, you might want to jump on this. I'll leave a link in the description below. But yeah, man, this is a really, really great figure. And it brought back a whole bunch of memories because I remember when DC Universe was straight killing it with this line. They were like on top of the world, it seemed like. And at the time, I wasn't really big into DC. I was more of a Marvel fan. And I remember being jealous and bitter because Marvel Legends was kind of taking a back seat to a lot of other things at that point. You know, Hasbro started to do the Marvel Universe, and I feel like they had less focus on Marvel Legends. But then over here on the opposite side, Mattel was putting their all into awesome 6-inch-ish DC comic book figures, you know? They were doing a great job. And even as somebody that was like not a DC fan, I would still buy these every now and then, and I enjoyed them. The first one I ever bought was Flash, and I remember thinking like, I remember when I bought it, I felt like a traitor kinda. But then when I opened it up, I was like, man, this is a fun figure. Much different than Marvel Legends, but you know, it was cool, and I liked it quite a bit. And yeah, man, I think I'm going to backtrack and try to buy some more DC Universe Classics. There's a few that I've wanted for a while, like Deadshot. That's one that I missed back in the day. I remember I was considering buying it when it came out, but I never did, so I'd like to go get him. Clayface, they made an awesome Clayface, so hopefully one day I could track that down. And The Flash, that's another good one that I'd like to get. But there's a bunch of characters. They went so deep into the DC Universe with this line. There are so many DC Universe Classics figures out there. It's insane how deep they went with the line. It had to be a great time to be a DC fan at that point. So let me know in the comments if there's any other DC Universe Classics characters that maybe I should look into picking up. Also, let me know if DC Universe was your favorite DC line. I know it was a lot of people's favorites. Let me know what your favorite was in the comments below. Also, let me know if you'd like to see more throwback reviews. I have a couple of DC icons that I want to review and a couple of Marvel Universe figures that I want to review. So I'm looking forward to doing those. I would say that this is probably the best DC comic line ever made. Personally, like 1-to-1, I like DC icons a little better, but you know, they weren't able to really like take off as much as they could have, you know. I like the potential of DC icons a little bit more. Obviously, these things are amazing, and I feel like this line actually reached its full potential. Mattel was straight up killing it with this line, and I really hope that another dope 6-inch DC line will come along one of these days. Or I hope that Mafex does more DC figures. They have been killing it with, you know, Cyborg Superman, Steel, Hush, Superman, Hush Batman, Dark Knight Returns Batman and Superman, Joker, Harley Quinn. They've done a good job on pretty much every DC figure they've ever made. So hopefully they give us more characters. I would love a Martian Manhunter from them, a Cyborg from them. Yeah, all the DC characters Mafex should get on. But anyways, man, this was a really fun video. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to check it out. Thank you so much. Be sure to like. And with that, I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Also, be sure to hit the bell notification so you know every time that I go live. Thank you very much. Peace.